Hey guys, well in front of you are a couple new lights from Xtar. I was sent these from Xtar to do a review on them. There's been quite a bit of interest online through some of the forums that I frequent. They've kind of requested for initial impressions of these lights. Most of you guys know that follow my channel. I usually review things for quite a while and test them before I actually do a video of them. I'm going to try to get a few initial reviews done on some products, and the only reason I feel comfortable doing that is because I've tested other products of that company for an extended amount of time. I've been using the Meteor for quite some time until I got the Zebralight 8600, and then two of their smaller sort of EDC lights. I'll put that link up here, which is the WK26 and the WK25B. Those we use on a regular basis all over the time, and they've held up great. They have some very cool, innovative things that they've done on these two lights. These are basically headlamps. They're mimicking a form factor of like a Zebralight. Here's the 8600 for comparison. I'll take it out of its strap. As you guys see in some of the pictures, this is using an 18650. This is the H1 from Xtar, and it is using a AA or a 14500. And this is the H2, which uses a CR123 or the rechargeable CR123, known as a 16340. This guy I've been using for the last couple of years, and it's really hard to beat that as sort of a form factor, as sort of an EDC light, and being able to throw it on a very small headband and use it as a headlamp. This does use an XML and the 18650 as a battery source, and we'll get to that in a second. This guy over here, a little bit taller version, like I said, uses the AA's or a 14500. Kind of a nitpicky thing with the WK EDC lights that I put the review up there, is you sort of had to pick your poison. Whether you're going to be running 14500s, the rechargeable lithiums, or you're going to run a regular nickel metal hydride or alkaline battery, you kind of had to choose before ordering. It was one or the other depending on what light you want to use. Much like the Spark review I did a while back, the SL190, this guy can use both. You will just get a slightly different output on there. I'll put in a beam shots just so you get an idea of what we're talking about here for the H1. So as you saw, if you're using a standard alkaline AA, you only get your three modes, your low, medium, and high. There is no turbo without the lithium. But what I did is I put in, as requested, some of the runtimes and lumens in that screenshot, so you guys can get an idea of how many lumens and how long it's going to run. That runtime is going to vary depending. You will get more brightness, 330 lumens on turbo with the 14500, but you're not going to get the runtime depending on what modes you like to use this on. The other thing you notice from there is it is much more focused beam. These are using the XPG2s, I believe, as the LED that's in here, and they are a little bit more focused. It is a slightly orange peel reflector that's on here. Most people prefer the floodier beam. I will put in the screenshot comparisons for the Spark SD52, which is basically a naked reflector with a little bit of protection on it and a very big flood. The spill on these Xtars is useful enough that you don't really notice it. If you are somebody that does a lot of sort of headlamp use, you may want the floodier beam, but as far as an all-around outdoor light, I found these to be excellent. The hotspot that's on here does project out quite a ways, and then the spill is useful enough that you're not quite focused into just that hotspot. It's a neat balance that they used, and I think it's an interesting light. It is quite a bit deeper than you'd expect. I mean, the LEDs are way back here in the back, and you get a fairly deep reflector to get a decent amount of throw on there, depending on what power mode you're on. I know that will be an issue with some of those guys that prefer the floodier beam. Really, the issue comes down to, like, if you're going to sit and camp and read a book at night in your tent, you know, is that narrow focus going to be an issue? And I didn't find it to be that way. The hotspot is broad enough at those close distances reading a book that even at that 3 lumen level at the beginning, you're able to read a book just fine. I can put in a quick clip with some pictures at some point. The red LED is about the same lumen output, so whether you want to do white or red at that 3 lumens, it's about the same. The red lumens was a little bit more focused than I was hoping. I was hoping the red lumens would be a little bit more broad, because you don't quite get the distance out of that 3 lumens, so you might as well broaden it out. You will see the pictures I'll put up there as you know, trying to read a book with the red light as well. So even with the red light, you know, at that distance, the beam width is about the same of a book page. If you're going to use that for reading, I didn't really have to search with my eyes or my head as I was reading. I would like it a little bit wider, but that's pretty nitpicky. It really helps being just sort of an overall outdoor lamp, you know, work lamp, headlamp, pocket EDC. You can see kind of the size. This is definitely a little bit bigger. Some people don't want to get into the 18650s. They want to have the ability to run a standard AA in their light, which I totally understand. This guy, the only reason it gets any distance, that XML is such a broad, wide LED, floody sort of LED beam, the only way the zebra light gets any distance is just by brute force. I mean, this thing, when you kick it up to 750, it puts out a lot of light, but that's the only way it's going to reach any distance. It's just brute force putting out so much power that it's going to reach out into the darkness. With these guys, you can be on a lower mode and still be able to get really good function and really good distance, as you'll see in some of the photos. The H2 is basically the same. I'll put it in their beam shots here. As you can see, somewhat comparable. I mean, instead of a standard alkaline at 1.2, 1.5 volts, the CR123 is a 3 volt system, so you're getting a little bit different run times and things out of it. And then when you go to the 16340, again, you get that turbo mode out of there, and it's just a higher drain usage, you know, materials. Depends on what you're going to run, whether you want standard CR123s or the rechargeables. With that, I did have some issues of some of the batteries fitting in here, and we'll go over that in a second. So be aware that if you're running an Eagle Tax or the Trust Fires, I had no issues. If you run a night core of the 14500s, you will have a little bit of issue with it, and the same with the Xtars and the H2. In the battery tube here, very nice machining. You'll see the, as soon as it focuses here, there's the inside of the tail cap, nice little spring, very well, you know, good materials on the spring. This is running a Eagle Tac. It's a 750 milliamp 16340, and it is a very tight fit. In fact, I have to kind of get it to poke out there before I can get my finger in there, and it's not the easiest thing to get out. I had to take the sticker off of it to get it to fit, which is why you can't tell it is a Eagle Tac. The issue I had with the Xtar one is it protruded out a little bit, and I'll show you that on the H1 because it is actually running the Nightcore 14500 in it. It's going to be the same issue, and it's going to protrude a little bit out of the base, which makes it difficult for this end plate to match the tube of the body. So what I did is I took some triple-aught steel wool and sort of took some of the coating off the threads and just cleaned up everything really well, and I was able to get that to work. All right, demonstrating on the H2 just to show you the UI. You know, a single click gets you into low, another click is medium, another click is high, another click is turbo if you're running lithium ion. Fifth click, it gets you back down to low. In order to turn it off, you press and hold for 1.5 seconds. I think that could be only maybe 1 second. It's a little bit longer than most people are used to. If you double click, you get into the red light. Double click again gets you into red light SOS mode. It's buried enough that you don't really ever will use this mode. However, there is no memory, so if I click again, there's your low, double click, there's your red, single click, back to low. Click again, there's your medium, there's your high, double click, get into red, click again, and you're back to low. There's no mode memory to go back to high where you're from, which I would appreciate. I would like to be able to be in high or turbo, go to red, another click gets me right back to high or turbo, whichever I left it at. This does not have that. Same with, you know, you hold for the 1.5 seconds to turn off, and it won't remember what mode you're in. So if I'm at high here and I hold to turn off, and then I click to turn it back on, I immediately go back to low. All right, now looking at the band itself, one first glance you'll notice is there is no actual cutouts for the bands to sit in on the Xtar, which I found very curious. The material itself for the rubber is much thicker and much stronger. This thing is in here more securely than I will say the Zebra Light is. You know, it takes a little bit more oomph to get it turned, which may be a good thing, especially if you trail runners are looking for something lightweight. You don't want bouncing and moving on you, but it definitely takes a little bit more force to rotate it, and because of that, you definitely notice a little bit more contact on your forehead from wearing it, simply because the extra thick, stronger rubber material than, say, the Zebra Light. And the Zebra Light is much softer material, and you definitely don't notice it. You can kind of see how the Zebra Light is flattened on your forehead, where this is a little bit more blocky and right angles, and so I definitely noticed that. I had to loosen this up from where I would kind of normally keep as much tension on my head, and it would just kind of had to loosen that tension up. It was still secure enough, but it definitely got that tension off my forehead. I noticed that immediately after about 5 minutes of wearing the light. Alright guys, well that's going to be my quick impression overview of the Xtar headlamps, the H1 and the H2. Initial impressions, fantastic, really cool design. Some of you guys, hardcore headlamp floody beam guys, won't, I don't think you'd be too disappointed by the more hot spot of the LED. The spill is usable enough, and I didn't notice it when I was reading, sort of doing camp chores, that it was obnoxious. But for those of you that are true floody beams, this may not be it for you. I'm disappointed that there's no last setting memory. I would love to be able to go right back into high, and go to red beam and go right back into high, or just go right back into high or turbo or medium, whatever I had it on, from off again. I do think the 1.5 seconds for turning off is about a half second too long. It's a silly little nitpicky thing, but it's just something where I keep thinking I have it turned off, and I look down and it didn't turn off. So you kind of have to wait that extra second to make sure the light was turned off. Kudos and thumbs up for the form factor of the batteries. Be able to put a standard 1.5 alkaline volt in there, or the 14500, and vice versa with the CR123 and the 16340. Amazing job. You get, you know, such a great light output. I prefer the rechargeables myself. I like having the versatility of putting whatever I have available in there. With that, be aware that some of them are going to be a little bit longer. You're going to have to maybe do a little bit of playing around and seeing which one of your lithium ion, whether it's the 14500, like the Nicor didn't quite fit in there. The Xtars I have of the 16340s did not really fit in there. So I'm using the Eagle Tax in here, and I'm using the Trustfire, the Eagle Tax in the Xtar for the 14500 on the H1. So that's initial impressions. Let me know if you guys have any questions. This will be, in the testing of the project here for a long-term test. If I run into any issues, I will certainly let you guys know. And yeah, initial impressions from Beast. Thanks for watching, guys.